Well, it's all back together now. Turret back in place. Actually went back together, wasn't too difficult. Got everything back at the rear end of the turret there. Hoses connected, wiring connected. And all we've got to do now is to see if it's made any difference and see if the damn thing actually works. Whoops, that doesn't sound good. Oh my god. What's going on? Okay. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be spinning round and round and round like that. But it has always been a bit temperamental. Oh well, we shall see. Have a bit more of a play with it tomorrow. See what happens. Well, I have wondered whether these control valves in the top of the turret are possibly not working as they should. So I'm going to take these out and pull them apart and see what we can see. Right, just checking the solenoids on the hydraulic valves on our turret on the CNC. And we might, if we're lucky, be able to see these things popping out here. Yeah, let's see. I'm just putting 12 volts on them. It's supposed to be 100 volts AC, but they seem to work on 12. There's that one. And there's that one as well. So they work fine. I'm sure if they work on If they work on 12 volts, I'm sure they'll work on 100. Assuming they're not popping out and getting stuck. I think it's fine. I can't find anything wrong with them. The other one works just the same. So I'll stick all these back together. Yeah, pronounce them working, we think. I don't know whether they might be worn out. And that's the shuttle. See that shuttle valve in the middle? Focus camera. As far as I can tell, it works. So be careful not to put any crap inside it when I put it back together, but hopefully that's fine. We've got to look for a fault somewhere else, I think. Well, this is the main block of the valve. There are two different types on this machine, and they have a different, I don't know what you call that diagram. But that's one, and the other one, yeah. So they work slightly differently, and one of them has got, if we put the shuttle valves next to each other, we can see the difference. I must not get them mixed up, because that will not they will not work properly if I get them mixed up. But no seals in these things, so I don't know if after a year's work they wear out and you get a bit of clearance between the bore and the shuttle piston, whatever it's called, which may allow a bit of bypass from the different sections. I've no idea. Nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that you can, no seals you can replace. So I guess if they're not working properly, you just have to get new ones. And getting new ones is easier said than done. Kayaba Industrial Co. Limited, Japan, or KYB, these days they seem to be a shock absorber manufacturing business. I don't know if they do these anymore. I'm sure there must be equivalents to this. These seem to be working okay, so I shall, look for some other fault. But if we need to replace these, I think we need to try and find an equivalent, and probably go by the diagrams which shows the connections and operation of it. I guess they just bolt into place. Underneath of these blocks, 4 ports with O-rings on, and these just bolt down onto the main body of the turret and connect directly to the index motor and the piston, which pushes things in and out. Well, we clearly hadn't got this thing working properly, so I've dived back into it again. So I've taken the other half of the curvic coupling off of this, which revealed the bolts behind which hold this part to the main body of the turret. And so far I've put a whole bunch of screws in the holes which held the coupling ring on, and I'm using those as jacking screws to get behind, to push this thing off of here. But it's come so far and then it's jammed up. So and I've dislodged an O-ring from the back of it, which was I was half thinking, you know what, I'm not getting anywhere, I'll have to put it back together, but it's going to be tricky getting this O-ring back now. But it seems as if there must be something on the back end of this holding it in. This gap is about the distance that the top plate of the turret moves backwards and forwards, and this hub is now tight up against the housing. So yeah, we've got to get into the back end of this. I've pulled out what looked like heads of bolts here were actually just plugs, but there were smaller screws further down the hole, so I've taken those bolts out. This one here is just another plug, and there is another plug even deeper in the hole. that is just a plug, that is just a plug. So I'm wondering if these are bleed points. The manual says it doesn't need bleeding when you start it up after having done some work on it or whatever, disconnected pipes. But I'm kind of wondering if that's what these points are. But in the meantime, we've got to get the back off. This here is the encoder which fits inside here, and the gear is driven from a gear on the back of this spindle. Let's go around and have a look. Right, you can just about see the gear there which drives the encoder, and that's a recess where the gear on the encoder sits, and it's held in with these two little clamps. It's mighty fiddly to get at, but yeah, that's out of there, and we might replace the encoder because we've got a spare. There's I might go into the story about that, but yeah, we've got another one, so we might just replace it just because. But having taken that out, right, so there are two bolts here, which would seem to be holding this plate in. Too close together, which is kind of odd. And then there's another two right up here in the shadows. Can't even see, can you see that? I don't know. Two up there. There's another one right in this gap here, and I've got a hex, an Allen key kind of socket on the end of this flexible drive, and the flexible drive is too flexible. I need to find an extension bar. I'm sure I've got one, but I'm blowed if I can find it. So we might be going out and getting another extension bar, then we might be able to undo these bolts and get this whole thing out, find out what's behind it, and yeah, who knows. Well, I've managed to get the index motor out of the turret, and it's quite a lump. It's come out with it's three pieces bolted together, I suppose. There's the big mounting plate on the front, a little gear from the motor poking through. The motor itself seems to be just this piece, and then there's this big chunk here which is basically a manifold block. So that's where the control valves sit when it's in the turret. And we've got the ports from the valve, or valves I should say, feeding into this block, and they will go through to control the motor. And then there are also there's a couple of rubber rings here set into the face of this piece. Looks like is that a valve, a spring there? Don't know. I don't think I shall mess with that, but one of those has got to be the feed and one's a return, I guess. Or one's a push and one's a pull. Heck. Yeah, it's got a push, pull, and there's got to be a return too, hasn't there? Crikey, I don't know how that works. but I don't think I'm going to mess with this. It's a bit rusty in places, so I should probably clean the rusty cruddiness off of it. I mean, the motor works. It does turns the tooling plate, the turret. So yeah, I don't think I want to delve into that. Some big bolts here holding the motor onto this plate. Yeah, I don't think there's any point in taking that off. Yeah, and with that out, the turret has got a great big hole in it. So you can see the big gear that is driven from the index motor, 5-to-1 reduction apparently. So with a 10 station turret, it's half a rotation of the motor gives one tool change. Okay. And the big nut in the middle is what holds the rest of the gubbins in the cylinder, which there's not much of a cylinder actually, but the part that pushes the turret out and pulls it back in again is behind this gear. Well, behind this gear and within the housing, which is bolted to the front. This piece here, which I was struggling to remove, it got so far and then it was clear that there was something at the back holding it in, and yeah, it's that big nut holding the gear on. I bolted this piece to the front of here so that that should hold the boss and the spindle while we try and take the nut off the back. That's 46mm AF on that nut. I don't have a socket at the moment, so I'm going to have to go and get a socket to fit it, and then we'll see if that gets us anywhere. I'm still hoping I can take this out of here and inspect the seals, just the hydraulic seals, to see if they're worn and maybe causing a problem with the push and pull action. So yeah, tomorrow go and buy a socket and see if we get any further.